All right, this is a video for the study guide for March 28th, and this is for 4th grade. We're going to start off with decomposing mixed numbers. Decomposing means to break down, and as we see, we're decomposing this mixed number of 1 3/5. So what I told them that they could do is just decompose that whole number with that super 1, and then decompose the fraction with just a sum of fractions that would equal 3/5. So they could decompose, you could give them a combination of any of the mixed numbers and ask them to come up with a combination of any type of mixed number. They are asked to come up with 2 different combinations. Still practicing our subtraction with regrouping there on number 8. Our area, making sure that we remember to put our units squared. Still having trouble with our division, remembering that each number is going to get a number above it there in our quotient, and that leftover becomes our remainder. On number 12, what we have here is the definition of the parallel and perpendicular that I've asked them to study. This was trying to pick out, are these 2 lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? And what we talked about was that even if these lines were to extend, that they would intersect, but that they would never be parallel because they would touch, and they would not be perpendicular because they don't intersect and form right angles, so they would be neither. On number 4, we're talking about multiples, which are numbers that you hear when you skip count. So whenever you're skip counting by a certain number, in this particular question they asked them which number of these choices were multiples of 6 and 4. So if you skip count by 4, would you hear 18, 8, 16, 30, or 12? And 6, if you skip count by 6, would you hear, which one would you hear both of those numbers? And that happened to be 12. On number 8, it was talking about a conversion, and the way that we do this is we set it up with, we're given 5 minutes and we wanted to know how many seconds it was. So what we set it up with is 5 minutes equals a blank amount of seconds. And we know that 1 minute equals 60 seconds. And then we say that if it's same side, meaning the number and however many seconds we know, if that's same side, we would divide. If they're across, we would multiply. And in this case, they are across, so we would multiply. So we did 60 times 5, and that gave us 300. Of course, this is probably going to be a different group of numbers that they're going to multiply with. On number 11, this is a line plot. Sometimes it gets kind of confusing. This one we're talking about lengths of students' thumbs. So what that tells us is, since this is lengths of student thumbs, that means that the numbers down here are our lengths in inches. The question was, what is the difference between the longest thumb and the shortest thumb? These X's are the students. So you're not looking at the longest column, you're looking at the longest thumb, which would be the measurement. You might even have a question like, what is the difference between the second largest thumb and the difference between the second smallest thumb? Might be a type of question that you might hear. So if you were looking at the difference of the second largest thumb, that might come from 2 1/4, and the second smallest thumb, that would be 1 1/4. So you would subtract those 2 if you were looking at that, not talking about X's. You're just looking at the measurements. The X's are how many kids had that measurement. On the next question, it asked you to find 4 times 3/5. This is just a drawing representation of what that would look like. You could also take 4 groups of 3/5 and kind of put them on this, like 4 that would be 3/5, and then you could have counted 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and that would have put you down here to show you that that was 2 whole groups and then 2/5 left over. We would multiply 4 as a whole number with 4 over 1. 4 times 3 straight across gives us 12. 1 times 5 straight across gives us 5. This is improper, so we have to divide. The 12 goes inside our carport, which is what we say. Take the top number and drive it in. Bottom number, drive it out. 5 will go into 12 2 times. And then we have 10, 2 left over. So the whole number is 2. The remainder is 2, which becomes our numerator. And we're talking about fifths because that becomes our denominator. So the answer would be 2 2/5. On number 11, we have a angle problem where they told us that the sum of these is a right angle, so that's the reason why we put 90 right there. We also said step 1 would be to add that 32 and 28 to find what we know that these two are, which ended up being 60. And then we take our total 90 minus those two, which is 60, which gives us a total for Z to be 30 degrees. On number 12, we have a regular polygon. It asked us to draw the lines of symmetry, which if it's a regular polygon, that means that however many sides it has, that will be how many lines of symmetry it has. So since this is a regular pentagon, penta meaning 5, that would tell us that we are going to draw 5 lines of symmetry. And then it asked us where would an odd number sided polygon have its lines of symmetry, and that means that one vertex ends up on a side. So it goes from vertex to side, and then vertex to side is what this part right here means. If it's even, it would go from side to side, vertex to vertex. 14 is a matrix problem. We've had several of those. If you're still struggling with those, you can check back on some of my other videos from in the past. Rounding, we have rounding to the nearest 100,000. Underlining in the 100,000s place, the 5 telling you to round the 6 up. On number 11, we're comparing, and because the denominators are the same, all you have to do is compare the numerators. And real quick before I end, the part for extra credit this week is going to come from Mr. Gallon Man right here. So if you want some extra credit points, I'm going to have you draw Mr. Gallon Man right here. So it would tell you that there are 4 quarts in a gallon. Outside of each quart there are 2 pints. From each pint there are 2 cups. From each cup there's 8 ounces. So if you would like some extra credit on today or Thursday's test, draw me Mr. Gallon Man. And before we end the last question, this was just talking about using compatible numbers. It's just an easier way to add where you find numbers that group together easily, which is that like 9 and 1 gives you a 10, and then you had a 1, 7, 2, which gives you 10, and then 2 and 2 gives you 4. And then it asked you what would be an item that he could buy. Another one, I think it was talking about Scotty. So this item right here was a jacket, and then we had a coat, or I think a suit, and then some boots. And so he could have bought another jacket. So you're looking back at the question and finding what other item could he buy. Another one, he had $500 that he could spend. So that was that one. If you have any question, please be sure and ask, or tell your student to ask, or contact me. Thank you.